everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Outside Insider podcast here on Philly Sports Network. Now, don't panic, this is not a regular Eagles episode. I'm saving my emotion about the loss to the Cowboys for Friday's episode, where we're of course going to preview whatever may happen against the New Orleans Saints. But this one's a bit different. Now, for those of you who followed my content for quite some time, you know I like to go against the grain, like to do things a bit differently. And there's one thing that has always stood out as a big mantra of mine, and that's finding out the story behind the story. So, if you've read my content for a while, you may remember a couple of Jordan Matthews interviews, or one with Trey Burton, or a couple of other players, including former safety Jeremy Reeves, where we go behind the scenes, behind the stats and the helmet to find out about the person behind it all. And the NFL is very much a place of fairy tale endings and, well, right, for the most part, barring injuries, but you know what I'm getting at, where it's very much a place of happy endings and guys who have made it to the NFL, they've made it to the big time. And when you come out of college, you go through that draft process, there are so many players that, of course, there are going to be names that slip through the cracks and into undrafted territory. But what happens if you don't get picked up by a team? What is that next year like? What is 12 months like in the life of a player who's still grinding every single day to prove us what it takes to make it to the NFL? That's why I spoke to 2017 draft prospect Lorenzo Mitchell out of Tusculum University. He's a tight end, 6'4", 255, and we had an hour-long conversation about from where his love of football started to a connection with former Eagles tight end Gannon Sinclair, and his most recent success of playing at the Spring League. So I'll introduce Lorenzo very soon, but just before we do, make sure, guys, if you are new around this show, make sure you hit that subscribe button. It will mean the absolute world to me. There's a link in the description. Hit subscribe on iTunes. It's free to do so. It means you get every episode delivered straight to your device, absolutely free. But without further ado, here is a very, very interesting chat with Lorenzo Mitchell. Lorenzo, thank you first of all for coming on the Outside Insider podcast. How are you doing today?
Good. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
No, I mean, the pleasure's all mine. So we were talking a bit before about kind of where you grew up. So you mentioned to me that you grew up in Chicago. Being a kid in England, obviously I'm in like a very rural area where nothing really goes on. It's really boring. Like, if you imagine Friday Night Lights, but English, that's sort of where I am. So, I mean, contrast that to where you're growing up. You mentioned, obviously, the stuff you see kind of molds, you know, that childhood and that rigidity. How difficult was it growing up in that sort of area?
You know, growing up on the South Side, I was actually blessed to have two wonderful parents who put their kids first. You know, I do have a couple other siblings, and you know, our parents always kept us out of trouble. They raised us the right way. They never left us unfed or unclothed. We always came first to them, and they worked hard for, you know, everything. And, you know, having them to look up to is, you know, a blessing for all of us growing up, you know, on the South Side. And, you know, also, you know, spent some time in the suburb area because my parents thought it was a better fit for me to go to school and further my athletic career. So I'm happy about that. But yeah, growing up in Chicago, you grow up fast. You have to be on your game. You know, you can have fun and stuff like that, you know, when you're a kid. But nowadays, it's a lot more dangerous. You know, people aren't playing outside as much. You know, a lot of single-parent households, a lot of kids that grow up with no parents, and they have to, you know, feed their siblings and stuff like that. So growing up in that area, it just taught you a lot. It makes you mature a lot faster. It makes you appreciate the smaller things in life that, you know, most people would think, you know, it's not that big of a deal, but to you, it really does. It makes you appreciate that much more.
Yeah, I can totally relate to that point. And I guess as well in terms of your career then onwards, so I mean, like myself as a writer, like you then get it's a different sense of appreciation. With yourself and football, I mean, what was your first memory of falling in love with football?
My first memory of falling in love with football. I actually grew up more of a basketball guy because when I was younger, they told me I was too big to play football because of the weight. I was a little bit overweight. I think I was over by like 15 pounds.
Oh.
I'll never forget the first time I actually got to go to a game. As I mentioned to you before, I have several players, that, you know, family members that played in the NFL. So getting to see them play and the passion they play with, made me really love it. And then my uncle played against, he played for the Raiders, and he played against the Patriots in the 2001 AFC Championship. I'll never forget it. They played the Patriots. He got an interception that game, and the whole crowd just looking around the stadium. I was only 6 years old. You're looking around the stadium, and you see all these fans cheering and chanting your name, and
Wow.
the energy that all the players play with. It's just a different feeling it brings. So to me, and I'll never forget it. It's just ever since then. My uncle doesn't love it, but I've been a Patriots fan myself, and I'm all about discipline and doing everything the right way. So that's when I fell in love with the game, and it just carried over and made me a competitor.
See, on a predominantly Eagles podcast now, I'm sure this is going to be a bit awkward, isn't it? It's cool, but
There's nothing wrong with that. Yeah,
no,
nothing
not
wrong
at
with
all.
that.
But no, genuinely, I mean, it's a great story. So you mentioned that you've got actually a couple family members that played in the NFL. So you had one that played for the Colts as well, right?
Yes, sir. Walt Harris. Walt, man, great guy. Always loved his family first, and he won the Super Bowl with Peyton Manning. I forgot which year it was. I'm pretty sure he was one of their top corners. Because he was actually drafted first round by the Bears, I guess in 98 or 99. But yeah, Walt, he played with the Colts. He played with several teams. He played for about 10 or 11 years. I'm pretty sure he had a great career. He's a great player and a great mentor.
Did you ever feel a certain pressure then, kind of growing up with your parents or like, I guess, relatives and that sort of thing, being very aware of your family history? Was there ever a pressure to get into athletics or football specifically?
No, and, I've gotten this question plenty of times, even from my parents, make sure that I didn't feel pressure or anything. More so, long story short, a cousin who played in the NFL as well for 3 years, actually 4 years, with the Jaguars, Giants, and Packers, named Antonio Denard. He's my uncle's son who played in the NFL for the Raiders. We grew up very close. We've always been very competitive with each other, and I think that really drove me to be, because I'm the youngest, so that always drove me to be better than them, and that just carried on than me being better than, trying to be better than everyone, trying to be the greatest at my position because of what I can do, with the football, what I can do for my team, help them win. So it was never pressure. If anything, it was for myself because I wanted to prove that I belong. I wanted to prove that I can do things that other people can do, even given my bigger size. So I'm the biggest person in my family, height and weight-wise. So the guys that made it are much smaller than I am.
So I remember reading. So you're, as far as I can aware, at least at the time of the scout profiles, you're 6'4", 255. Is that roughly still the same?
Yes, sir. That was my measurement as of last week.
See, so I'm 6'3" and I'm very gangly, right? So I mean, I remember I covered the NBA in London, and I was like, I stood next to Joel Embiid, and I was like, I can't tell if he was shorter than I expected, or it's because I'm quite tall. And then I went to an NFL game and I saw the lineman, and I was like, well, now I just feel like I'm going to get destroyed. Like, I shook hands with Hollis Thomas, who used to play for the Eagles, and I thought my wrist was going to fall off. And I was like, that's suddenly going to hit me. That I was, all right, okay, these guys are much bigger than they look on TV. So obviously you play tight end, so you go through high school. What point in high school did you think, okay, right, I can take this a lot further than just where I am now?
It's funny you say that. I think it was, second game of the year. We're playing Elgin High School, and I think it was the first 5 plays of the game. I had all 5 receptions, and I had a crazy one-handed catch. Most people nowadays would call it OBJ-like. I still tell people I did it first. But I had a crazy one-handed catch, and I got my first Division I offer after that game, and that's when I realized I can do something special just based on my ability, my hand-eye coordination, my ability to catch the football and create separation on my run routes like a receiver and not necessarily how tight ends run. That's when I realized I really can do it, and then when I had my teammates and my coaches and other coaches really backing me up and kind of giving me that reassurance that, hey, you have something special, you have a gift, and you can do whatever you set out to do if you go hard and dedicate your time to it. So ever since then, I've always wanted to play, and that's what I love.
So what you don't realise is that Odell actually calls his own catch the Lorenzo Mitchell catch. Like, that's...
Yeah, I mean, social media wasn't big back then. When I graduated high school back in 2012, it wasn't as big. It was becoming there. But if it was as big as it is now, I definitely would have been on ESPN for that game for sure.
So exiting high school, then you're looking at those first D1 offers, and I mean, where did your path go from coming out of high school into college? Because you mentioned before it was like a little bit of a different one.
Yeah, it's not what you see from most kids that have D1 scholarships. I actually ended up going to junior college out of high school. Coaching change at the college I was committed to led to my decision to go to junior college. It was actually probably the best thing that ever happened to me. Honestly, I can't say my head was even big, but I went to North Dakota State College of Science in Wapaton, it's a small town in North Dakota, right outside of Minnesota. It's probably like you cross a bridge and you're in Minnesota, so it's fairly close. I went there. I played my freshman year. I was honorable mention All-American as a freshman. I was rated top 3 tight end in our conference nation outside of California. I had quite a few interests from schools, had a few D1 offers. Sophomore season was coming around. I ended up being ineligible due to an investigation, which came back cleared. I was fine, but it was halfway through the football season, and I ended up playing basketball that year and redshirting my football year instead of burning my eligibility on what would be 4 to 5 games. After that, I went to Winona State. Great college. I graduated there, got my bachelor's there. Had a lot of great teammates, a lot of great memories. One being we knocked out the #1 team in the country, being Mankato State, Minnesota, at their place. What an epic game. What an atmosphere that was. Then after that, Winona wasn't the greatest fit for me as far as individual goals, as far as my role in the offense, And I had to make the best decision for me, graduate early. I ended up going to Tusculum College, which is now Tusculum University, where, it was a better fit for me. I stood out more. I helped my team, and, I had to have fun. Playing football, it's a lot of business, but then again, you got to remember why you love the game, and it's because it's fun. It's because you enjoy to do it. And I just want to get back into the funny things, and the fun brings out the best in most people, so that's what it did for me.
It's really good to hear that turnaround as well. And I guess, looking back at JUCO and things, so obviously, again, being British, and when I was first learning about the sport a few years ago, and the idea of JUCO and, I guess, the purpose that it served, I mean, did you feel that, I guess, maturing in your background through Chicago helped you prepare for that? Like, if you'd have had a slightly easier run through that childhood, would it have maybe been a bit of a harder hit?
Oh, yeah. I think it made me more mentally tough. Being in Chicago, you have to take things on the run. There's always going to be obstacles. There's going to be bumps and bruises. But, the strongest, those are the ones that push through. And I've seen so many people back home fail because they gave up on themselves. And I just always use that as motivation to not fall down that path and, do what I believe in and keep moving forward. So it worked out in my favor when I went to junior college. I can't lie, I did go through some depression there after losing, D1 scholarships. I thought I probably could never play football again based on what I was told at the time. But it wasn't the case, and I'm blessed that I got other opportunities to play the game that I love.
So I guess it's so easy for anyone to kind of sit Even as me, this is what I try to do differently as an analyst. So I'm not sure if you know. So I've covered the Eagles for 4 years for my website, and the interviews that I've done, I've always tried to go behind the story because there's nothing worse than being an analyst, especially with injuries as well. Like you look at an injury, and go, oh, this guy's out for 6 months, he'll be back, and you just see it as how it impacts the team or the game. Like, and very rarely do you see anyone go, well, how's that guy feeling? Like, he must be in agony to begin with, not knowing where his future is, not knowing if he can play football again. And it's the same with, I guess, losing those D1 offers, because I suppose that when you're having those interviews, when you're being recruited, that everything is painted to be this golden palace of fortune, and it'll be perfect, and it's a dream fit for you, and then all of a sudden, in a blink of an eye, it's not. I mean, how was that to go through? I just, for those first few weeks, and kind of telling your family and that sort of thing?
I think that was the hardest. That day, I'll never forget it. It was July 23rd. That day, I had to tell that to my family, and I also had to end the relationship that day, which was
I'm sorry.
That kind of. Oh no, it's fine. It happens. Like I said, it was for the better. It made me who I am. My initial thought was, there's no way. There's no way this is happening now. So close to my next season. Like I said, close to All-American season. I have all these schools, and the offense that I played in was so tight end friendly. It was almost made for me, picture perfect for me for the play in. And my coach and new things into the game plan for me to come up season. So, for me to let down my teammates, it's only a 2-year school, but I'm very team oriented, family oriented. That was the hardest part, not being able to strap on the pads with them, not being able to make plays when it's crunch time, or being that person's ear who needs that leader on the field. That was heartbreaking for me. I felt like I let down the coaches as well, because they invested so much into me, and they prepped me, and they put me out there and made sure that schools are know, hey, this kid is got to be good. This kid is going to be special. And for me to let them down, it was a terrible situation. I don't wish it on anyone, and see it throughout the NCAA often. But letting my family know, I think that was easier for me than telling my teammates and my coaches, because at the end of the day, my family wants what's best for me, no matter what it is, if sports or not. They're going to support me. And I'm grateful for having them in my life, but they, obviously, and they're not going to be like, hey, that's terrible. We don't want to talk to you. They're more so, hey, are you okay? What's the next step? What do you want to do? How do you want to go about this? So they were very supportive in that. My mom didn't totally understand. She's not that big into football, but I beat myself up a lot about that. And I still think about it nowadays, but, like I said, being the person I am, I'm, grateful for the opportunities I've been given since then.
Yeah, so obviously, I guess moving forward, and you picked yourself up and you pushed on, obviously had a very strong career at Tusculum Athletics. So looking at that now, so obviously when you finish and you graduate that college and everything's fine, you're looking towards the NFL. What was that time after? Like, so that kind of interval period between after your final collegiate season and the NFL draft. I mean, what was that? Because obviously that's when your pro days happen. That's when the prep starts. Did you pay any attention to either draft boards or rankings or interviews or anything like that at all?
No. I knew what I was going into. I knew I had a long battle ahead of me. Coming out of D2, it's never easy, especially if you didn't have a crazy season, or if you're not freakishly athletic and scouts have already been scouting you. I only had talked to 2 teams before my senior season. And going in, I just knew that my uncle had always told me, it doesn't matter what they say. You go out there and you perform to the best of your ability and have fun. And, he preaches that. And, that's kind of what I looked at. Yeah, I got quite a few interviews, phone calls, agents, they want to come meet and stuff like that. Initially, right after school, I signed with the agent. And, I picked a pro day. I ended up attending the NFL Regional Combine. I had a pretty good showing there. Did gain some interest from some teams there, talked to a few scouts. So that went well. I think that really put me, on board to show that, hey, this kid maybe can be something and help a team. It was hard. I only started my training back in December. I did have to stop for 2 weeks because I had a bowl game down in Daytona Beach, the National Bowl, which I'm very grateful for the opportunity. It's a great place where, scouts come and they see, small school kids, even some one kids there. They see them perform and get to talk to them, and you get to see what it's like to, practice with pros, practice like pros, pick the minds of NFL coaches or former NFL coaches and players, and, just try to learn as much as you can, be a sponge, kind of suck in what you can in that short period of time. So it was a great opportunity there. And then, the 4-day combine training, I did that in Naperville, Illinois at Acceleration Performance. Some great trainers there. They helped me lose. I lost about 23 pounds in about a month. I took 3/10 of 10 off of 40. I added strength, added a little more bulk. I leaned up in my lower body. When I say these guys, they know what they're talking about. If you do everything they say, you'll succeed. You'll meet or beat expectations based on stuff that you're trying to meet and the goals that you have for yourself. That was a long 3 months. They usually do about 2 or 3 months. It was a long 3 months. And then for me, trying to figure out my pro day, because I went to 2 different schools. Initially, I was going to do it back at University of Minnesota, but the new head coach came in and told everyone that they wouldn't be allowing any other schools other than their athletes to perform at the pro day. So that sent me back a little bit. So I was scrambling towards the end, trying to find the pro day. Ended up having my own private pro day for a few scouts. That went well. I checked off some of the boxes that I need to work on, and I got good feedback from that, and that led to a few private workouts with a few teams before draft day.
Do you mind me asking which teams you worked out for?
Yeah. So I did work out for the Redskins and the 49ers.
Okay, so what did you make of those experiences? Because I guess at that point, the excitement starts to build. You've got 2 teams interested in you. What were your first impressions? Did you go to their facilities, or was that still, I guess, closer to home?
It was closer to home. It was actually very a few days after my pro day. They were already making their rounds for pro day, and my agent contacted me and told me where to be, and they put me through some things, some drills, and then ran routes, and we talked, touch base, and most of it was touching base. What I can do to help the team, why they should draft me or why they should bring me into camp, type of thing. And then they want to know a little bit about my family as well.
That's cool. It's really interesting to hear, I guess, again, the other side of it, because a lot of that is kept behind closed doors, for sure, at the NFL level. And I guess for scouts as well, because I was trying to talk to a lot of different personnel over the last couple of years and looking at the sort of questions they ask and the things they do to almost not catch players out, but to try and get a gauge on the type of person that, you're looking at. Was there anything that one team did significantly different than the other?
I can't say what team.
Yeah, no, that's sure.
But they talk to me, and then they'll ask me a random question that was totally off topic, and then they get back on topic.
Okay.
I think that was trying to get my attention span and see where, if I can do multiple things, or, when you're on the football field, I think of it this way. At the receiver, tight end position, quarterback position, the defensive line up in one thing. And then, you get your call, and then once the play the ball is snapped, they can do something totally different. How fast can you react and get back to what you're supposed to be doing? So I think that's what they were trying to do. If I'm right, then I'm happy about that. But I think they were just trying to see, they could get me on my toes and how I would react. They didn't have anything too much more significant than that. They wanted to know, if I could read coverages, if it's one high safety, two high safety, what was my favorite routes, what coverages this and that, and stuff like that. But it wasn't too difficult or anything like that. Nothing like the one they looked at,
Yeah, I wasn't expecting like a level like a CIS interrogation or anything for sure, but it's really interesting to kind of hear the way they go about it. So the NFL draft comes and passes. I mean, I guess by this point, like you said, you played in a bowl game. You've probably got a lot of friends who are in the same boat as you. What were those few days like? Were you in contact with guys in your draft class or maybe like seeing a few of them get snapped up?
Yeah, actually, the guys I grew up, when you grew up in athletics, you tend to stick around people that are athletes, and some of my closest friends are athletes. I mean, most of them are. So the guys in the combine group, all of them got into a rookie mini camp right away. I had to wait a while, but B.J. Bello, he was in my combine group. He ended up going to the Browns. He ended up making a 53-man roster as well. Had a good rookie season. He's a freak of an athlete and a great football player. Also had a friend going to camp with the 49ers. At receiver, he was a D2 kid. Another guy that was in our combine group was a tackle. He went to the Buccaneers. We had guys going all over the place from the combine group. So watching them, I was very happy for them. But then again, it's like, what could I have done different to get in that position they were in? But I was also the only offensive player in my combine group. So, being at a different position, that's really, different and different circumstances. And I'm completely happy for those guys, and those guys have great careers right now. So it's good to see them, and I get to touch base with them every now and then and see how everything's going for them.
So the weeks after the draft then, so maybe the few days after it all kind of finishes and the confetti kind of falls for everyone else, what was that like emotionally for you to kind of, was it just a case of almost like constantly refreshing a phone and seeing if there's going to be a call or a text from someone?
Yeah, based on what the teams that I had talked to, based on what they were looking for, I thought I fit that. One team ended up drafting a tight end at my position in the 7th round, so I kind of figured that wasn't going to pan out like I expected, but I tried not to get down. It's kind of hard to, when you work so hard for something and you put so much time into it. But I was with my uncle at the time. We watched the draft around the same time. And, he just kept me motivated and going out to the field with me and letting me know, hey, you just have to be ready. People get injured all the time. People get cut. People do dumb things to get themselves kicked off the team. You just have to be ready for, when that team calls, you just have to be ready.
No, absolutely.
You don't necessarily need someone else to fill that spot.
I mean, how important, having your uncle around in that sort of situation must have made it a million times more easier, right?
Oh, yeah, most definitely. Like me, like I said, I put a lot of pressure on myself, so I was just trying to find ways to get better. I tend to watch a lot of film. I'm a football junkie, so I watch a lot of film. I critique myself, and that whole 2 weeks, 3 weeks after, until I got that next workout or the opportunity for a workout, I was watching film, critiquing myself, and getting back to the field and working on those things. So when I did get that opportunity, I'd be able to perform the best and have those knocked off that critique list.
See, as a film kind of analyst myself, so on the Philly Sports Network YouTube channel, we run an Eagles film room series where we go through the All-22 every week, and I'm always trying to learn. So whether it's running backs or, my specialty, I would say, is cornerbacks. I love looking at coverages and the way that cornerbacks play the game. For me to analyse a player's performance and to look at it on film and say, right, this was good, this was bad, that should have been better. I think that's cool, but when you're trying to critique yourself, how different is that? So if you're preparing for an opponent or you're looking to critique your own game, is there a different process? Are you looking at it a bit more intricately when it's yourself on the field?
Oh, most definitely. I think most competitors are that way because when you're on offense, you don't want to do anything to give away what you've done. So, if you can fix things and make everything look the same, you're winning. You're going to win those one-on-one battles. That's the difference. If you're not giving away tips here and there on what you're going to be doing or how you line up, or taking the proper steps, sometimes people may, some people are stronger with their dominant arm than they are the other, so they tend to shift this way or shift that way because of that. You want to be as equal physically and fundamentally as sound as possible when you're out there. So anytime I'm watching film, based on the scheme of running, I try to just imitate what my coach would say to me a certain play, and I'd write it down. Then the next play, I write it down. And then when I'm studying opponents, I'm doing the same thing I would do for myself, but for them. Oh, he lines up here, and this is what he tends to do on these third downs or second downs, and this is what he likes to do on first down. Or he likes the bull rush, or this is cover 4, this is cover 2. So I tend to watch a lot of the small details, and I think that comes from me playing quarterback growing up.
Oh, okay, yeah, definitely. So I didn't realise, honestly, even how the positioning of feet of an offensive lineman can give away whether it's pass protection or run protection. Like, even something like that, where to me, I've only just realised that this year. So if it's like, for certain players, if one foot's behind the other, or if they're level, it can dictate a different look, like a percentage of the time. So I guess you could get really deep for each spot. But for you as a tight end, I mean, what sort of things are you look? Because obviously you've got a lot of blocking responsibility as well. What sort of things are you looking for from those opposing linebackers on film? Is it the way they stand before the snap? Is it the eyes? Is it the head?
It's almost everything. If you're watching on film, that's one thing. But when you're in the game, you tend to look at the little things. So like if a linebacker where he's obviously where he's at on the field in certain looks, and when you're watching film, you can have someone in a base look or a turned look, depends on where he's at, and then where the eyes are. Me, I always look at where the eyes are, where the feet are pointing, and then obviously you want to look at the safety too, because you want to know if it's cover 3 or if it's cover 2 or if it's cover 1, because of cover 3 and cover 1 can look similar until the ball snaps. So looking at, the eyes, then you can tell what zone they're probably in or what kind of defensive front they're going to be in and stuff like that. Also, you got to be aware of where the safeties and the corners are. That'll give away what the linebackers are doing as well. If the safety is way out, the ball's in the middle of the field and the safety is way out on the hash, it's probably some type of blitz coming or, 2-man under or cover 2. But opposed to if, there's one safety in the middle field and one outside the hash, and obviously someone's blitzing from that side and stuff like that. So you're not really focused on just the linebacker. You're focused on everything, but at the tight end position, you're lining up right in front of the DNs, the linebackers. You got to be, I think that's what makes the tight end position that much harder. So you have to avoid those DNs and linebackers at the line of scrimmage right away. And it's not always one-on-one. People try to chip you to slow you down and stuff like that. So I can't say I did zero in on linebackers because that would be false. Yeah. But, watching the eyes, the hand movements, where they line up, exactly, if they're 7 yards deep or 5 yards deep, or if they're right up on the line of scrimmage, if you've seen that look before, then you know what they're going to be doing, and you can put yourself in a position to get open or make the play for your team.
Do you know what? I promised myself before this interview I wouldn't talk too much about film or any coverage or anything like that. Because I knew it was going to be like a thing, so I'm really sorry for getting carried away. But it's okay, we've got an audience that love film breakdown, so it's all good. So obviously trying to get back on topic, so we could talk like film all day long. But going back onto topic, so after the NFL draft has passed and those weeks and the days, I mean, what sort of, steps did you take next? Did you get a few calls from teams?
I did. I'm not going to talk about, which teams they were.
Of course.
They were private. They were private workouts. But I did get a couple calls. I did fly out to a couple places with other teams. I got great feedback back. I just wasn't, the type of player they needed at that time. So after that, I ended up getting a few calls from my agent about possibly, doing a PFL route. So I did that at the DN position. I did make it to a second trial with them, a PFL team. And I didn't like the position. Like I said, I love playing football, so but I just didn't think it fit me. So I just went back to playing tight end because I just felt like that was my best bet. Playing NFL is my ultimate goal. I'm not obviously opposed to playing in the Canadian League.
Yeah.
My uncle played in the Canadian League, and he actually made it to the NFL from the Canadian and Arena League. So, everybody's path is different. So I'm not opposed to playing. I just love playing the game and trying to go about it the right way.
So I guess this was the next biggest question, because once that initial fire starts to burn down a little bit, and then the hype, and then the season sets in, and you know that those windows are going to be limited, and your window for actually playing snaps of football gets limited. How do you handle that? Is it a case of just working out with friends? Are there little leagues you can join, like, to kind of keep you? Because I know we're going to talk about the big one that's coming up for you a little bit later on. But just at least in that first year, what did you do to kind of stay in shape and stay ready for that opportunity if it ever opened up?
I initially, I had to have a real talk with myself. I've always been a big believer in that you have to sacrifice for what you want. And at the time, the only thing I could think about was I didn't sacrifice enough to get where I wanted to be. So I had to spend that time to sacrifice a little more hard work, a little less play as far as, hanging out with friends or going out or anything like that. And, I just try to keep myself motivated and humble, because it's very easy to, fall back and like, it's just not going to happen. Even nowadays, I had got to that point. And I'm just like, this is what I want to do. And talk to my agent. I ended up getting, prayed about it, ended up getting contacted about, possibly going to the spring league and stuff like that. So, I've been looking for that opportunity. So, like my uncle told me, if you stay ready, you don't have to get ready. And I stayed ready. So it's a great experience and a great opportunity for myself going forward.
Yeah, exactly. We'll get onto the spring league in just a little bit. You also mentioned before we started recording that you also work a full-time job, right?
Yep. Yeah, right now I'm working a full-time job. I've worked for Hertz. Worked for Hertz Rental Car. It's a worldwide company. It is a corporate company. I'm actually a manager.
Hey.
The youngest manager in the state. And do I love it? It's a good job. I make decent money and put some food on the table for me. But it's what I love. I can't say that. Absolutely not. I can't see myself, working just a 9 to 5 for the rest of my life without, playing football at least, or keep going out there and trying until I realize, that window's closed.
See, this was all a test. I'm just going to send this to Hertz now and then. No, I'm kidding with it. So, no, I totally get what you're saying. I think there's definitely that thing. Like, it doesn't matter what job. So I, along with this website, this is like where I want to be, and like my dream is to cover the sports full time, and having to work hustles alongside that and have second jobs. No matter what, so I work at Apple part-time. And, like, don't get me wrong, as far as retail goes, like, Apple is probably one of the best companies imaginable to work for. But because that's not where your heart is, do you know, it's sort of like being in a relationship, but it's not the girl you want to be with, do you know what I mean? It's one of those things where you've got to be happy. And it's like, if it puts food on the table, like you say, and you keep earning the money so you can fund what you're doing outside of work, then it's always going to just be that job. And for me, I found this year, it is the weirdest thing to go through, where you could be doing really well at that job and you're still not happy. You're like, no, that's cool, but you pass it off and you're straight back home focusing on where you want to be. Like, I mean, how is that work-life balance for you? Because it does become like a work-life balance, because then you have your 9 to 5, then the preparation, I guess, all the football-related things, and then the chilling down period.
I'm on a tight schedule. I watched the thing, honestly, a few months ago on Will Smith. He talked about self-discipline. And he said the most people that are most successful are the ones that are the most self-disciplined. And I didn't understand what he meant. He meant, those people hold themselves accountable and don't make excuses. No matter how tired you are, how late it is, how early it is. If you want to reach your goals, you're going to have to make that sacrifice. And to make those sacrifices, I have to get up early in the morning. Excuse me, I have to get up early in the morning, or I have to stay up late at night to get my workouts done, to make sure I get all my meals in throughout the day, make sure my laundry is done, and make sure, obviously I'm ready for work the next day. I do work from 7 to 6 most days. I don't work weekends usually, but my schedule usually, wake up, eat breakfast, go to work, come home. I might chill for about 30 minutes to an hour. Then I'm headed to the gym or to my training session with my speed coach. After that, I get more food in me. I'm very into video games. I'm a Madden guy myself. So I usually take about 3 minutes to do that, and whatever time I have left over, that's what I use for my free time to clean or help the family or relationship stuff like that.
You're gonna have to have a game of Madden now, right? That's just like the rule.
Yeah.
This cool. I think.
I don't know.
Oh, what are you gonna say?
I don't know if you want to see me in Madden, man.
Oh, I'm awful. There is such a big joke. So because I spend most of my time breaking down film, and yet my friends will play me and torch me, and won't have a clue what they're doing. Because obviously in England, no one really cares about American football. So a friend can pick up Madden, torch me, and then I'm supposed to be doing all this stuff, and then just can't put it on. It's all good. But yeah, I guess that balance is difficult, especially when it's physical. I mean, so for me, I work an hour away, so I will get on a train at 6 a.m. to get to work for 7, to have breakfast for 8, to work for 9. I get home at 8 p.m. and then obviously everything's on a time difference, so I'm up to about 4 or 5 a.m. working on the website. So I guess mental exertion for me is a nightmare, but physical and having to constantly be at the gym or training or pushing that further and then work the next day. I mean, does that take it to a whole nother level? Because, that sounds to me like, I would definitely struggle.
It is a struggle. But if you look at it that way, I'm a very optimistic and positive person, or at least I try to be. If you look at it as a struggle, then you're probably doing it for the wrong reasons. I look at it as a strength. It's strengthening me, not just physically, but mentally, for even tougher times in life. Everyone goes through their tough times, so I think I take it more of a challenge. I'm like a very competitive person, even if it's within myself. So for me to push myself to know that I can do something, and you have to stand for what you believe in. So for me, I believe in myself and know what I want to do. So I have to make those sacrifices, because sometimes I wasn't making those sacrifices before, and that's why I do it the way I do it now. So I don't look at it as a struggle. Yeah, is it tiring? Yeah, but the ultimate payout will be much greater than what any of this can be.
So let's talk about that right now. So obviously you've got the Spring League, which is coming up. So that was, I saw that on your Twitter. So massive congratulations for that. What was that feeling like when you found out that it was all going to be, cemented, that's where you're going to be playing for a little bit, that you're going to get that experience?
It honestly, I couldn't smile much harder. Also, it humbled me, because I've been in this position before to work out for scouts, and I know what I didn't do correct the first time.
Yeah.
So it was more so, now let's go out here and prove to people that you belong, and that you correct the mistake, and that you can be coached, that you listen and you intake everything. Being a sponge at any sport is a great tool to have, be a great trait to have, to be able to soak in information and then apply it to your everyday, either athletic career, life, or even your everyday life at work, or whatever it can be. So for me, I just looked at it, hey, I have this opportunity. It's time to go hard at home. If this is what I really want to do, and to make sure that I'm at the top of my game for when I perform in front of the scouts.
And obviously it's really taken off recently as well, the Spring League, so it's probably the perfect time for this to fall into place. Obviously a year ago, not saying it's at all like a flagship for it, but having Johnny Manziel's name alone playing in that league probably rocketed its kind of publicity around the most casual fan upwards, and people started wanting to then find highlights and then all these different things about it. So when you look at, I guess, some of the names recently that have competed in that league, do you think that it's probably a bigger platform now than it was? It's like a bigger showcase than it could have been a couple of years ago?
Yes, and I say that because obviously Johnny Manziel, great quarterback, great football player. I wish him nothing but the best. But there's guys, Noel Devine, Greg Hardy.
Yeah.
There's been tons of guys who come out of the spring league to make it to the league, even the smaller guys. I really salute to the small school guys that come to the spring league and then they get the opportunity at the NFL, because the big name guys bring in the scouts. We all know that.
Yeah.
But it's the small school guys that usually, make it out or make it on to the next level because they're grinding that much hard. They don't have that spotlight. So when they go out there and make a play, they're giving 150%. So, whoever that guy is that brought this guy through is giving 100%. He may be giving his 100%, but his 150 is going to beat that 100% every time.
That's it. So another interesting question is really on that as well, because I know that, social media has become a massive thing as well. Like, guys, now you've got Huddle for highlights, and that's been a big thing in recent years. And social media now, for a lot of people, if that's your work, is a very different place to if you're using it for personal use. So, as an athlete, when you know that you never know who's going to be looking at your profile, do you have to kind of look at the way you use social media differently?
Oh, yeah, most definitely. If you're going to be smart about it, it's definitely... I mean, even, as a person, social media is... Social media is how you're portrayed as a person when someone sees you that doesn't even know you. You're basically showing people who you are as a person through social media. So I never try to put anything that, I wouldn't want my mom to read, or I wouldn't want my kids to read in the future whenever I do choose to have kids. Something I would never want to post anything, but I also will post anything that, I actually believe in, or whatever I stand for as a person, or if it's religious beliefs or, controversial issues throughout the world that's going on, stuff like that. So I'm not afraid to speak my mind, but also I am very concerned on what I put, because I'm not always going to put what I feel out there on social media, because I'm very, I'm not a loner, but I'm the closest thing to it.
Yeah, no, I'm 100% the same, and I think... So I've noticed with myself with that, so a lot of my stuff, it could be like inside information or reports and stuff. So my Twitter, while it's not huge or verified or anything like that, I know the following it has is quite dedicated. So I can't go on there as a little 23-year-old in his feelings and be very, emotional or anything like that when people are expecting a certain type of, portrayal in a way. And you kind of have to not be someone else, but you've got to be almost like that shell of what you want to be presented. It's sort of like a LinkedIn profile, but all the time. And it can get a little bit weird where you're not allowed to go full in or say anything that would be a little bit out there or a bit different, because you never know who's going to be looking at it. So as someone that, again, in a similar position, do you find yourself that it can get a bit frustrating, or you want to do something, or you want to retweet a funny video and you're like, actually, someone may find that and it could be a little bit damaging to like my image or something like that?
Yeah, I think about that every time I look at a tweet and I retweet it. Honestly, it becomes a habit. Honestly, people are, once you get to that level, you can almost pick your mind, but you also have the back of your mind who's going to be seeing it, and it's all about what you stand for. So you don't want to put anything out there that you don't truly believe in, or something like that. But I do like to censor what I put out there. I even got into pretty heated argument with your girlfriend about that. So about a tweet, even just liking a tweet. So I try to censor what I put out there. I tend to retweet more than I tweet nowadays.
That's fair, completely fair enough. So the Spring League is in April, am I right? I think April.
Actually, I know you're on a different time zone. But actually, the Spring League was actually this past week.
Oh, so it's happened.
It was the last. Yeah, so it just happened. I actually just got back from Miami yesterday.
Oh my god, I literally thought it was like April next year.
There is going to be one in April next year, but the one that I participated in, it was just this past week.
Ah, right, okay, well now we can have a very different... there you go, right, the beauty of live interviewing. Alright, how was that experience for you?
It was great, honestly, to take back the feedback I got from the coaches, the director, the scouts that was there, and I can't, obviously put a name on anything. But, it's a great experience. You get to really show what you can do. Everybody gets the opportunity to play, to practice, to show, what they're good at. And you just have to go in there with an open mind. I've seen quite a few players even switch that positions by coaches to see if they were better fits at this and that. And you just have to be open to things like that because, what you think is best for you may not be your calling. Your calling could be something totally different. So that was great. Then the feedback, from the plays or the knowledge. If you have any questions that you've always wanted to ask coaches, these are all former NFL coaches that were position coaches. So they knew the game, 10-year, 12-year, veteran coaches that, taking the time out of their busy schedules to come and, give you knowledge on the game or give you feedback and critique you. It was a very neat opportunity for all of us players. And for me, I'm very grateful. It went well. It did have kind of a nagging issue with my hamstring after day 2, but I pushed through. I showcased what I could do. It could have been better, if I was fully healthy. And hopefully I do get invited back to the spring league that's in March, at the end of March and the early part of April of 2019.
See, what I'll do is I'll chop that bit of the interview up, and then so when you do go in April, we've got a whole other segment ready to go. No, I'm just kidding. So, yeah. I mean, it sounds like it was a really good experience for you. I mean, what was your biggest takeaway from it? Obviously, is that the first time you've had pads back on since the end of pro days and stuff like that, or college?
Yeah, because like I said, there was a down period where I was kind of down on myself, and I didn't have the best diet, and I was about 280 at one point, and for me to push myself with work and working out, and for me to eat clean and stuff like that, to drop 25 pounds and put on muscle and lean out, it worked on my speed. And that was one of my biggest concerns, and biggest concerns for scouts was, will my speed be good enough to play at the next level? Will I be able to get separation? And I think I did prove a lot of that over the past weeks.
So, I mean, what was the overall experience? So when you walk in on that first day, was it nerves or was it just sheer excitement of being able to get back out on the field again?
I think I was more excited the day before. When I actually got on the field, I was ready to handle business. I'm a very even-keeled person. Those who know me, there's nothing that excites me too much or disappoints me too much. I kind of just take everything on the chin and keep going about my day, and I try to get stuff done. It's not always the best way to look at it, but am I happy? Am I excited? Yeah, but I'm ready. I was just so ready to play, to prove people right, not prove people wrong that I'm not good enough, or he's not going to be fast enough and stuff like that. I was ready to prove, to my family and those who support me that I am good enough, and I'm going to be doing it for them. So I wasn't too nervous. I got the jitters out pretty quickly there. It was honestly too hot to even think about being nervous, honestly. Miami is a very humid place to be. So I got the jitters out pretty quick the night before. But like I said, I had a good time, and hopefully I can go back and add more to my film and my resume there.
So I know there are, obviously going to be a couple scouts present at that game, and I know you probably can't go into too much detail about any follow-up since, but has there been kind of any wrinkles of attention after the Spring League?
I did talk to a scout and the director of the Spring League. They liked what they saw from me. Obviously, I'll be nursing a little bit of a hamstring, but the feedback I got back was good. The only downfall of it was the injury and the heat. The heat was for everyone. The humidity was something different. Me being from up north to go down there, and the training and the preparation, for conditioning was a little different. It was a little hotter than usual, but other than that, I loved all the feedback I got back. Once I get back healthy, I'll be right back at the ground again, waiting for that next opportunity. I did get some great feedback from the director, so I'm very optimistic on something, even if it's not the NFL, even the New Alliance League or the Canadian League, whatever it may be. Whoever's willing to take a shot on me, I'm giving them 150% every day.
I love that. Good to hear. That's really good to hear, especially after. And it's cool, like, to see that journey then come full circle and almost like then renew it. What does the next sort of few months have for you? Obviously, I know we've got Christmas coming up, so we won't ask you, present shopping and that sort of thing. But what do the winter months hold for you? Like, obviously, I guess now it's nursing the hammy, but beyond that, is there a plan in place, or is it just a case of just trying to stay in shape through those winter months?
For me, I'm gonna go harder. And I want to reach my full potential. I want to get a lot faster than I am. Whatever I need to do, I think there's some things that I work with, talk to my trainer about. So the plan is to get faster and prepare. Like I'm going to be going to the next Stern League. That's for 2 weeks in March, at the end of March, early part of April. I'm going to do my best for that. So, like I said, I'd rather be ready than have to get ready.
I love that.
So I'll be preparing for that, whether I get in or not. If I don't get invited, I'm just looking for the next opportunity. But like I said, man, in this business, anyone can call. I mean, I had a former teammate who actually played this preseason with the Eagles. His name is Gannon Sinclair.
Yeah.
Gannon was my training JUCO. We were a 1-2 tandem at the tight end position. So, he was out of football for a year and a half, and, he kind of, talked to me about what that process was like. He was just working an everyday job, and the Eagles called him and signed him the next day.
Wow.
They come out for workout, and they signed him the next day. And, so, very, like he said, you just can't give up on it. You just got to keep, stay ready. You're ready to go, and he was ready. So, opportunities like that, obviously it's within a long time, and he got to do it, and he lasted the whole preseason. He was one of the last cuts. So his story kind of, keeps me motivated to keep going, because you just never know what can happen, and who's looking at you, or who's looking from a distance, or who wants you, who's fighting for you to get into that camp, whatever scout it is. So I'm just preparing that I am going, and God's will get in, and I'll be able to showcase even more of my skill set.
Well, I mean, you've convinced me for this. I mean, if I was ever, like a scout or anything like that, it's been so amazing to hear that story. And I think just, you can relate it a lot to other parts of life as well. So even as a writer, media's a very similar industry. You've got a lot of different outlets that are going to be looking at what other writers do, but maybe not take a move because, want to see how things progress and stuff. So it all kind of, there are similar outlets or similar strands of work that carry those same tendencies. And hopefully a lot of people listening to this can just get a different insight, because, there was a lot of things in there that I didn't know about, for instance. And I really don't want to take up too much more of your time, because I know you said you're on a tight schedule. We've been here nearly an hour now. So just thank you so much for taking the time out to talk to me and tell your story. How can people get in contact with you? If they get a bit emotional, a bit tear-jerky, and they want to, just learn a bit more about you, where can people follow you on Twitter?
On Twitter, just at ZoeMitch25. You can follow me on Instagram as ZoeMitch_25. I'll follow you back. I'm not one of those guys.
There you go. That's the spirit we like, right?
If you have any questions, want to reach out to me, feel free. Yeah, feel free to reach out to me. Any questions or anything like that. I'm always willing to help people. I feel like that's one of my purposes in life. So, and I really appreciate you having me out on the podcast. So it's been great to talk to you as well.
Hey man, the pleasure's all mine. Well, listen, that was Lorenzo Mitchell, fantastic player. We're hopefully going to see very much more of him soon, whether that's Spring League or in the future. But Zoe, again, thank you so much for coming on.
No problem. You have a good one.
So that is the end of the episode, guys. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to this. I hope you've learned as much as I did, because that was just insane. Like, what a story that is from Lorenzo Mitchell. And fingers crossed he does make his way to his NFL dream. And I'm sure he will with that work ethic. But what an inspiring story it is. And hopefully just shedding some light on the journey that an undrafted free agent really does go through before the draft, during the draft, and of course after as well. If you've liked this episode, please let me know in the comments. Rate it 5 stars on iTunes. We can't grow this podcast without you. A 5-star rating and a subscription on Apple Podcasts really can impact the quality of show we bring and help more stories like this come to life. So if you like it, please stick around. For myself, Jenkins, we'll see you next time.